Demon Slayer. It won a series of awards for 2019 and even going into 2020. Watching the anime in 2019, I was blown away by the aesthetics, the beautiful animation, and some of the characters we got introduced to. Recently as well, we got the Demon Slayer movie Mugen Train, in which we find out more about the Hashira Kyoguro Rengoku, and we find out about the Upper Kizuki a little. I did an entire review on the movie, so if you want to find out more about it, I will leave a link in the description below. So with all this, I got hyped up to read the manga, and today I will be giving you all my opinions on it. I will be covering the pros first and the cons after. I will also be including what I want from the anime in the future. With that said, let's first hop into the pros. I have a lot to say about the Demon Slayer manga, but firstly, I will start with the pros. One of the most important pros, first and foremost, is definitely the fighting scenes and how they correlate with the anime. With how beautiful and fluid the animation was with the anime, they followed the fight scenes very well in the manga from what I saw in Season 1 and the Mugen Train movie. That being said, the breathing styles in the fight scenes were very well detailed and they were enhanced to be the best they could, matching the manga flawlessly. The anime brought the manga to life in terms of that aspect. The last pro I would say is for sure the backstories of the Upper Kizuki. Some of the Upper Kizuki got some really fantastic backstories of when they were originally human. Obviously, we have the upper three being Kokushibo, Doma, and Akaza. I'll start with Akaza, or Hakuji, his human alias. We learned that he hated weak and cowardly people, and he never ate women. He had tattoos all over his body due to him committing crimes. Hakuji was branded as a criminal. Hakuji's father was ill and he stole medicine for him. His father had killed himself due to finding out Hakuji was committing so many crimes. Then we find out he beat up 7 villagers, got approached by a dojo owner, he fell in love, and then everything got taken from him. Doma, before he became a demon, was actually viewed as a supernatural holy presence by followers and his parents. People would come to him hoping for good fortune and prayed to him because of this. However, Doma thought all of that was a bunch of crap. He had no emotions whatsoever, even as a human. His mother had killed his father, and he showed no emotions even towards that. Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo, or his human name, Michikatsu Tsukiguni, we learn he is the elder brother of Yoriichi Tsukiguni, the first user of sun breathing and one of the most powerful demon slayers of all time. Michikatsu and Yoriichi were twin brothers, and Michikatsu, being the elder one, was originally going to be a samurai, and Yoriichi was going to live on a shrine as a holy man. However, the tables turned when Yoriichi demonstrates his way with the sword. Yoriichi is flawless with his swordplay, and Michikatsu gets extremely jealous. Eventually, Michikatsu leaves his home, sets out on his own, and joins the Demon Slayers. Michikatsu even settles down and starts a family. However, 10 years later, he reunites with his brother and finds out Yoriichi became a demon slayer. Due to jealousy and the skill gap between them, Michikatsu becomes a demon. Eventually, they meet up 60 years later, and Yoriichi dies right in front of Kokushibo after an attempt to kill him. Two other backstories that are really excellent are those of Gyutaro and Daki of Upper Moon 6. Both lived really poor lives, with Gyu being a debt collector and Daki being a potential brothel. Gyutaro was always really hideous, and Daki was always beautiful. No matter what though, they always stuck together. I would get into more other backstories, but that's not what this video is about. Overall, these characters had great origin stories and are really, in my opinion, the best parts about the manga. What about the cons though? Yeah, to me, there are more cons than there are pros. I really hate to be the guy that lists off more cons than pros, but I have to. The biggest con to me is definitely the fact that we got too many characters for a short series. We have all the Hashira, the Swordsmiths, Inosuke, Zenitsu, Tanjiro, Nezuko, Kanao, and some other minor characters. Throughout the entire series, a lot of these characters don't get enough screen time, especially the Hashiras. The Hashiras play a huge role on this story, being the best of the Demon Slayers, and they all each have their own personalities and traits that we love about them. The problem though, is that they don't get enough time to shine. We only have brief periods of time with them. Therefore, there is no character development or build. Here are some relationships and character development that I would have loved to see. One of the ones I really wanted to see more was between Iguro and Kanroji. We only get maybe a short section of them on how they first met, and all of a sudden, they're in love with each other. They were both characters that were seen as very different and outcasts, so they were perfect for each other. There could have been so much more that happened with that. Another one is Genya and his brother, the Wind Hashira, Sanemi. We know that Sanemi doesn't actually hate his brother, and Genya wants to get closer to him, but there's no build-up to that. It's just, in the end, oh no, Genya's dying, I never hated you. I like the backstory a tad, but I wish we could have seen more build-up between these two. I know I already mentioned the love relationships between Kanroji and Obanai, but the ones I wanted to see the most were by far with Tanjiro and Kanao, and Zenitsu and Nezuko. Zenitsu and Nezuko just screams typical shonen couple. I can't really explain it, it just does. Zenitsu is obsessed, and Nezuko is oblivious. I know she's a demon, but she at least has human emotion. We know they get together in the end due to the future Tokyo section, but there's no relationship, no love, nothing at all. They just shoved them together. And there was also the fact that when Nezuko eventually did turn human again, she was like, marriage? What are you talking about? With such an innocent look on her face. Tanjiro and Kanao had plenty of opportunities, or even if you want to say Inosuke, that would have been fine too. Either of these having some kind of romantic interest with her would have been wholesome, some kind of chemistry, and there were times where there were a few, but not too many. We only know Kanao is the adoptive sister of Shinobu and Kanae Kocho, and that's practically it. I really wanted more from her, especially because in my opinion, Kanao was one of my favorite characters, especially because she was able to avenge Shinobu's death against Doma. Speaking of Shinobu's death, another issue I had was there were just way too many deaths. The only death I can really agree with is Kyoguro Rengoku, because out of all the Hashira, he got the most screen time and backstory in my opinion. I will admit too, I really liked learning about him, but what about the other Hashira? I would have loved to learn more about Muichiro Tokido and his brother. He's also a descendant of the first Sunbreathers. That's an important aspect of the story, but nope, he died. Imajima was the strongest of the Hashira, and we all know that he is blind, protected kids, and he's 27. He died. Shinobu in the beginning of the series was a very important character. She rescued Zenitsu from being poisoned, and Tanjiro asked her if she was angry, and she responded, and they had a really interesting conversation. After the attack of Rui, Tanjiro even lives at the Butterfly Mansion for a good while. Then after, Shinobu doesn't show up for a hot minute and then dies immediately after to Doma for a revenge mission. I'm glad she got revenge, but I wanted more from her. To be honest, I feel I know more about the Upper Moons than I do the Hashira, who were hyped up in the very beginning to be very important characters. Now, I will admit, those that got their marks were destined to die anyway, and most wouldn't make it past 25. That is a fair point. However, the marked ones are still fairly young, aside from Himejima. He got the mark after he was 25, though he did die shortly after. Anywho though, the last big con I want to cover is the pacing, specifically the training arc and the last arcs. The training arc just showed training for a very short amount of chapters. We see Tanjiro and a few other characters going through a few exercises, and that's it. We could have seen them get much more character development there. I wanted to see how everyone trained rather than just fast forward through it and say they trained. Only Tanjiro really got any screen time and no one else did. We could have seen what Inosuke went through to get as strong as he did. He mentioned going through training, but where is it? Either way though, it felt too rushed. To be honest, the last arc was rushed as well. It was only about 10 chapters long. The fights with the upper three Kizuki felt like they had more depth to them too. Basically, the ending was rushed. Muzan got weakened by Tamayo, and they had to hold him off until he died. To me, it was bland and rushed. Plus in the end, only two Hashira are alive, being Sanemi and Gyutomioka. After, we get a brief period where Tanjiro gets turned into a demon for like 2 minutes, and nothing interesting happens. That's it. Before I end off this video, I left this section for last because I know there are going to be a lot of people that will jump the gun and comment, "Bro, did you read chapter 205.6? Bro, did you even read the manga?" To answer that, yes I did. I will admit it was wholesome to an extent, and I will give Koihara respect for at least putting in an effort. However, I feel that was only an appeasement to the fans that were complaining. It does sort of make up for the ending the manga had, but to me, there still wasn't enough info presented. Character development happens during a story, not in a single last section chapter. The Descendants part was a neat touch, but still. The Guidance series was interesting though, on Gyo and Rengoku, and I would definitely be open to seeing more Hashira backstories in the future for sure. Overall, I would give the manga maybe a 6.5 out of 10. For someone who watched the anime back in 2019, who thought it was incredible, the manga is underwhelming to me. But it's not a horrible read, and I guess I could recommend it if you're just into pure action, because that's pretty much all Demon Slayer is in my opinion. There were characters and relationships that seemed incomplete, and some stuff definitely felt rushed. I hope that in the future, the anime can cover up some of these holes with some filler, but not Naruto filler, and anything but that. To be honest, this series needs filler and character development the most. Those are my thoughts though. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me in the comment section below. With that said, I'm Mystic Sage, and I will see you in the future for more Demon Slayer content and anime content.
Be sure to follow us on TikTok at MysticSage1 for daily anime content.